first up, let's take a look at the Asian markets, largely higher as we speak.
The lows that we've seen over the last couple of days has been at about 20,850.
And they have elevated the Deputy CFO, Jayesh Sangrajka, who also handles the portfolio of M&E.
There you have it. First tick on the index, the Nifty holding firm above the 21,000 mark.
The risk that the market was focused on is pushed back to at least April or May.
And Lenovo is the second largest player in the Indian market. They have a 19% market share. So we think overall, in the next couple of years, it can become a large opportunity.
And it's another quiet day. The Nifty and the sensex are practically unchanged.
But definitely, we have the right intentions. We can demonstrate leadership in clean energy solutions.
The good news, core inflation is the one that's the redeeming factor. It's down to 4.25.
For the markets, we opened above that 21,000 mark, touched a high of 21,037, and from those levels, we have come off from the highs.
All right, that's the day so far. You're with us here in the last hour of trade this Tuesday afternoon. Market's not doing very much at all. It's been slow. It's been slow for the last few sessions, as we've been talking about. We're coming to you from the CNBC-TV18 News Online studios. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Reema and Nigel. Guys, hi. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Pull up that intraday chart of the Nifty, and you would see in the first 1.5 hour, markets were holding up in the green. The next 2 hours, between 10:30 and 12:30, markets were flat. And the last 2 hours, you're seeing the market slowly lose some levels at least. So down below 20,950, but in the red now, firmly, for Sensex, Nifty, and the mid-caps.
Absolutely. There's some amount of profit taking, right? Yeah. It was slow, but it's now slowly starting to come off. I think maybe 1/3% lower, not very large, but it's down. And, red is not a color which the market is accustomed to seeing on the screen. The mid-cap index is down 1/3. The small-cap index was still up before I walked in 10 minutes back. Maybe we could take a quick look at the small-cap index as well. Yeah, 1/4% higher still. Market breadth has been negative. I mean, actually, for the last many hours now, nothing very large, but it's been in favor of declines. You have real estate, energy, auto, some of the sectors which had done very well, they're in the red, so nothing really to take away except the fact that there is some profit booking which is happening. And, we were saying this yesterday, and the market's done very well, and, in a very cocoon kind of way, we're very comfortable that, the market's just going to keep going higher. And maybe in the medium term, that may be true. But if you're trading day to day, you've got to be mindful of near-term sort of triggers and what may come around as a surprise. So there are two things. One, tonight, we get the CPI number, US CPI number. There has been some degree of debate after the hot jobs number on Friday, what that means for the Fed. The Fed decision itself is Wednesday, that is tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, to which we will react on Thursday morning. So just 2 days of, important events that's lined up. So, is it going to be consequential or not? That the data will tell us, but this is what's lined up in front of us. And maybe there's some consolidation, some profit booking ahead of that. Reema.
Hi. Again, the morning we started off with the market scaling new all-time high levels, both on the Nifty and even on the Sensex. The Sensex high today was 70,033. On the Nifty, it was 21,037. After that, there has been an element of profit booking in the red, but no deep gash. Prashant was talking about, support levels of 20,850. Pull up the intraday low on the Nifty for the last couple of trading sessions, and you would see yesterday the Nifty low was 20,923. But prior to that, 3 days in a row, the Nifty had taken support around the 20,850 levels. So that's the reason why we're saying it's going to be an important support for our markets to hold on to. In terms of sectors, life insurance companies are doing well. So you've got HDFC Life, SBI Life looking smart. Auto names, Bajaj Auto has gone on to hit a fresh record high today. So in the green and smartly there, Hero MotoCorp 2 up 1.5%. And on the losing side, profit booking continues in oil marketing companies. So for the third day in a row, BPCL is lower, and week to date, you've seen a cut of close to about 4.5%.
Well, that's right, Reema. A couple of these stocks have actually come in with some profit taking. I want to pull up PI Industries, and the intraday chart should come up for you. Front, very much one of those good names actually in the market. Suddenly that stock has moved to the low point of the day. So clearly some big selling out there. Nykaa as well has suddenly come in for some big selling. So pull up the intraday chart out there. And also Sarda Energy. So a few of these stocks, suddenly we're seeing some bit of profit taking in the broader markets on select stocks. Prestige Estates, another one. Pull it up on the screen. That's down close to around 7%. So fair bit of profit taking, so to call it, from the broader markets. And you pull up the advanced decline ratio. the crisscross lines, you'll see that now there are way more number of stocks that are declining in comparison to the number of stocks that are advancing. Mitesh Thakkar joins us though. Mitesh, well, one would have to say this is par for the course, some kind of a pullback. But on the downside, what is the level you're looking at in terms of a support?
Good afternoon, Najib. So I think, this still looks to be part of the consolidation, which I believe the indices are going through at higher levels. I am still not looking at a big decline happening, though I think, now we could possibly see some serious or a stronger pullback than what we've seen in the last few days. So the first level which I would be watching would be around 20,830, 850. And once we break that, I think, 20,700 is also a possibility on the Nifty. Similarly, on the Bank Nifty, 46,600, 46,550 zone is the area to watch out for. As long as we don't break these levels, I think, the overall health should be okay. And the bias will remain on the long side. So right now I have one buy and one sell call. HDFC Life is breaking out nicely. So that's a buy continuation pattern over here. That's a buy with a stop at about 685 and a target of 725 can be looked at. And Maruti is breaking down. I think the indicator setup has turned quite negative here. So that's a sell with a stop at 10,565 for targets of around 10,100.
Mitesh, back to the Nifty. So if we get an immediate dip to levels of 20,830, 20,850, you wouldn't go out and buy. You would wait for 20,700 before venturing a buy?
Yeah, I think that's the initial feel that, there's some support at 20,850. We got the lows of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday last week around the same mark. So there's a pivot over there on intraday charts. It's a stronger one. But if I want to consider fresh buying, the best entry point would be closer to 20,700.
And your stock calls are HDFC Life, buy, sell a Maruti. But let's talk about IREDA. That stock has almost tripled from its listing price of 32 rupees to now go on and hit 100 rupees. There was a 20% up move yesterday. It's followed it up with another 17% up move. And even from its listing price of 50 rupees, issue price 32, listing price 50, the stock is doubled now to 100 rupees. Abhishek joins in with some perspective on this. Abhishek.
Well, power finances have been in focus of investors this year. Take a look at the YTD returns that REC and PFC have generated, nearly between 245% to 250% range. So IREDA was the latest IPO amongst power finances to come this year. The cheap valuation that it had at the time of IPO, that is price to book value of nearly about 1 time, generated a lot of investors' interest into this IPO. And the investors have been rewarded given the fact that the stock price has almost tripled or even more, from the IPO price as well. If you take a look at the peer comparison, gross NPA ratio of IREDA is below REC and PFC. However, the valuation right now, on account of the fact that the stock has tripled, is right now about price to book value of 3 times when compared to 1.74 that you are seeing for REC and about 1.76% that you are seeing for PFC. So IREDA had launched a retail division. They are targeting PM Kusum, rooftop, solar, as well as other B2C segment with respect to loans being given out to these segments. The CMD has said that 1 to 2% of AUM allocation is towards the domestic pension and insurance funds into renewable energy bonds. The move is to aim, deepening the bond market for, power finances and fostering increased global and local investment as well. So CMD also has said that scaling up climate finance to meet India's energy transition goals, that is there. Back to you.
Okay, absolutely. Abhishek, thanks very much for that. So that stock is in the last 9 days is up 100%. And I think, as Abhishek pointed out, has essentially gone up 3 times since listing, which is, 2 weeks or so. So that's just incredible. Dilip Bhatt is joining us now. Dilip, hi, good afternoon. Good to have you back. It's been a while. Any thoughts? IREDA? As Abhishek said, the valuations when it came to the market perhaps were cheap. Now 3 times book.
Good afternoon. I think without any doubt, before we say anything, IREDA is certainly very expensive at the moment. Without, looking at all the possible parameters, the IREDA looks pretty expensive. But, the way all the big institutions and big HNIs had missed out on PFC and REC, we all knew that this is a stock which everybody will really go after, and they did. But at the current levels, while it's very difficult to recommend the particular stock, and in fact, I would say that if you have, say, whatever stock here, 10 to 20%, one must try to take profits out of that. Can it go up further? Because of the good liquidity, yes, it can go up, but fundamentally, certainly it's not a call to be given at the current levels. I would exercise caution from the current levels, knowing fully well that I can go wrong on this.
Okay, by the way, fertilizer stocks are seeing a lot of buying. So RCF and NFL have suddenly spotted up close to about 4.5%. So lots of buying there. And Hudco, another PSU stock, is also hitting a fresh lifetime high, 6% higher on that. So some more, PSU names on file.
All right. Well, let's focus on the cement space then. And the question we're asking is something cooking in India cements? And we'll highlight a few aspects right here because the street seems to be believing that something's got to give. Let's highlight some data. In the last 1 month or so, the stock is up close to around 25%. Next up, I was looking at the derivative action. The last full week and even the couple of days, well, it's firmly trading in the F&O band. It's not come out of that. So someone clearly has tanked up in the F&O positions. On the option side, yesterday, there was massive out-of-the-money call buying. The 270 call, 280 call, 300 call, big buying out there. And normally, it's not very, very active. Next up, in terms of cash market buying, the last 10 days or so, it's seen massive buying out there. Normally, prior to this period of 28th of November, we didn't see this kind of buying. But now, in fact, the delivery numbers are very, very high. Traded volume is high is fine, but the delivery data as well is very, very high. To run you through a few data points, then you have the shareholding pattern out there that's been disclosed. The promoter entry, that's Mr. Srinivasan, and his group of companies, they have close to around 28.5% stake. Mr. Radhakrishnan, the Mani and family, they hold roughly around 21% stake. Also, the street is waiting by for which party moves, or is there something more to read into in the shareholding pattern? Time will tell with regard to that. Fundamentally, post this big run, remember the capacity is around 15.5 million tons, and it used to be very cheap at $50, $60 per ton. But because of this 25% up move, now it's trading at around $90 on a per ton basis. What are the keys to track from here on? Well, the capacity they have, 15.5 million tons, but they've not been able to ramp up. So in case they have to ramp up, how much capex do they need to incur? Point number one. What's the kind of limestone availability they have? If in case you need some kind of, if something fundamentally needs to change, then they'll have to operate at close to, full capacity utilization levels. But what is the limestone they have for expansion? That's going to be important. And everyone keeps talking about a big land bank that they have. How much of it can be monetized? So that's why we're just wondering, is there something more in India Cement? We just thought that we'll highlight all these aspects for our viewers. Dilip, what's your view on India Cements? You've heard this before. There's something got to give, but ultimately nothing has come about for the last few years. Your view at around 260, 270 rupees. Bulk of the good news in the price?
Nigel, certainly I think a strategic takeover has been the buzz now for quite some time. And looking at the shareholding pattern, it only supports that belief. And even considering the fact that the existing management has not really taken any great interest to really expand the capacity for whatever reasons. So it further adds to the credence that some kind of change in management possibly may be in the offing. I think fundamentally, certainly it doesn't warrant to buy. So it has to be much more beyond that. And with a capacity of almost around 16 to 17 million tons, and possibly it can be scaled up further. So I think if you ask me whether it is already there in the price, I would say no. I think there's still a good amount of run possibly ahead, looking at the heavy buy ton of India Cement at the moment. So I would say that not fundamentally, not technically, but certainly for the possible corporate developments, which certainly is not there in the public domain for anybody at the moment, except some kind of buzz. One should certainly hold on to that and possibly look to buy this.
All right. That's India Cements. By the way, news at the bottom of the screen. SpiceJet is going to issue up to 32 crore shares at an issue price of 50 rupees. 13 crore convertible warrants at 50 rupees per warrant is some of the detail and breakup that is coming through. We don't know who these entities are to which these shares are being issued. Nimesh told us yesterday on D Street Chatter that there perhaps will be an issuance of this sort, and there will be some large US-based funds, etc., who will be involved. So we'll try and get more detail on this in terms of who's on the other side as far as these shares and warrants are concerned. Stocks have done very well over the last 2 or 3 days. I'm assuming in anticipation of this has seen a very large move. We'll take a quick break here. We'll get you more on SpiceJet. Dilip is with us. We'll also be joined by Abhiram Eleswarupu from BNP Paribas India with more on markets in just a bit.
CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence. CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.
Welcome back. SpiceJet is looking to raise about 1,600 crore rupees via a preferential issue and an additional 650 crore via a warrant conversion, which will also happen at 50 rupees, though the warrant conversion will happen at a later date. But this will entail pretty big dilution because the market cap of the company is currently about 4,000 crore rupees. The company has also reported their numbers. Revenues have fallen by 27%. The EBITDA loss in Q2, the July to September period, stands about 443 crore rupees.
Let's just actually put this to Dilip, right? Dilip, any thoughts on this one, SpiceJet, on this fundraising?
I think this fundraising certainly will build in a lot more confidence, because clearly in SpiceJet, we all were seeing that there's a liquidity problem at the moment on so many counts, whether it was on account of loan or on account of working capital. So on every possible parameters, they were probably constrained. And looking at the aviation scenario, and just there are a couple of players, it was very unlikely that it would be allowed to go down the drain. So I think a lot of people who are putting in money certainly see a lot of opportunity, and only with 3 to 4 players, including SpiceJet, I think this kind of money infusion will give confidence. And in my opinion, long term, I think some of these fundamentals will fall in place, and some of the very strained parameters also will get corrected. I think from the current levels, I would still be bullish on SpiceJet. I think there's a good amount of money to be made in this.
Dilip, you've not put money, no? Are you one of the counterparty on the other side?
No, not really. No, not at all. But I think I'm really pretty upbeat about aviation, and more so, I think, because SpiceJet, looking at all the possible things in the background, I think it would be worthwhile.
You know, by the way, we chatted with Ease My Trip earlier in the day, and he said the advance booking just for that 1 week between Christmas and New Year is 20 to 30% higher than same time last year. So just, you know, gives you an indication. Exactly like to like, right?
Whether you should stay at home or you should go out, depending on the size of your wallet.
Well,
Sorry, guys.
That's the big caveat, right? But let's talk about J&K Bank. That's also surging in trade following the launch of its QIP. Abhishek is joining in with the details. Abhishek.
Well, J&K Bank has launched a QIP of about 750 crore, and sources tell that there is strong demand over there. Indicative price is at around 107.6 per share, a discount of more than 14% to closing price, and about 4.5% discount to SEBI's floor price as well. The equity dilution is about 6.8%. Now, this discount can be compared to the fact that yesterday in trade, the stock was up more than 9.5%. So, bankers to the issue are SBI Cash, Motilal Oswal, MK, as well as Elara Capital. If you take into account the 750 crore of capital infusion, calculation shows that the Tier 1 ratio could improve to 12.66% from 11.73% earlier. The book value can increase by 0.3% to about 103.5 per share. With equity dilution of 6.8%, the net worth will increase by 7%. Back to you.
All right. Thanks a lot for that, Abhishek. Dilip, what do you make of the banking space in J&K Bank, if at all? You know, I recall some of these banks, no one wanted to touch them, you know, from a distance. And now suddenly when they're coming to raise money, you're getting 5 times, 10 times subscription. Bank of India last week, you have J&K this week. Your view on them?
Nigel, absolutely, you put it very rightly. I think with the financial space so much in demand and the front lines being what it is, I think down the line, people are still looking for, on a relative basis, some cheaper bets, especially when the balance sheets are cleaned up, when the NI growth is going to be strong, the credit growth is visibly looking pretty good. So I think taking all these factors into account, J&K Bank also with the infusion of liquidity and better capital adequacy ratio will be able to move ahead in terms of the credit growth. And certainly, I think some of these banks look pretty interesting even from the current levels, but the way they are moved up, maybe your holding period should be much more longer than what you had imagined.
By the way, markets are falling now. You know, thank you very much for joining in. The Nifty is now at 20,880. The recent low on the Nifty was about 20,850. It was a cluster low. We kept hitting it over 3 consecutive trading sessions, and we bounced back. So that's going to be an immediate level to watch. But look at the way the markets are, you know, selling off, particularly in the last 30 minutes. Hindalco has rapidly given up its gains. Power Grid has moved to the day's low. Maruti is down close to about 2%. Tech Mahindra has seen a sudden slam dunk. That's down nearly about 1% in trade. But we've got Abhiram joining in from BNP Paribas.
Yeah, no, we have Abhiram. Abhiram Eliswarupu is with us now. Abhiram, great to have you with us here. Thanks very much for joining us. You know, you join us on a uncharacteristic day because the markets are down 100 points, nothing large, but we're used to markets being up. How's the team at BNP looked at you know, the spectacular rally that we've had over the last 7 or 8 days now? Actually, even more, because I mean the rally started going into that election result weekend. And where does it put us? in terms of future returns?
You say 7 or 8 days. I'm actually thinking the whole year for that matter. I was looking at the small cap index is probably up about 50% year to date, which is a spectacular return, whereas the large caps are probably only up 15%. Now, what happens going forward is the question. I think heading into 2024, the big call is really going to be about where bond yields are going to be globally. And that's very important because it's a significant input for valuations. So what we think is that inflation is going to come under control much faster than people think, and therefore bond yields are going to come off. Of course, along with that, growth may also come off a little bit, but I think the yields falling will have an effect on risk being positive. And with all this money coming back in again next year, markets are going to possibly look for dislocations. So in India's case, you will see that large caps are significantly underperformed year to date. And after election year that we have next year, we probably see that probably even a pre-election rally, and that would probably continue till the end of the year. But before all of this happens, I think we may have a little bit of a pause because frankly, we've just one directional trade so far. And I think that people sit back towards the end of the year, reassess where they want to go, and that could lead to a bit of a pause initially.
All right. Abhiram, hold on to that thought. We're just coming back to you. But I just want to address the finance minister, I believe, is speaking, and we will go across to that. Okay, I think let's listen in.
वो सबको टिक टाक संभालने के कारण आज हमारे इकोनॉमी इतना मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फंडामेंटल्स में सही रास्ते पर चल रही है. इसी के कारण हम सबसे ज्यादा तेज रफ्तार में ग्रो करने वाले एक इकोनॉमी है. 7.6% का Q2 का हमारी ग्रोथ सबसे दुनिया में सबसे हाईएस्ट है. सर, ब्रीफ समरी के नाते मैं बोलना चाहती हूँ इस सप्लीमेंट्री डिमांड्स में जो पैसा हम लेते हैं वो किस कारण ले रहे हैं, आपके अनुमति से क्यों ले रहे हैं, किस एड पर जाना आवश्यक होगा इस पैसा का. सर, हमारे आदिर रंजन जी बात बोले न्यूट्रिएंट सप्लीमेंट के ऊपर, उसके ऊपर इस सरकार पूरे ध्यान दे रहे हैं आदिर जी. इसीलिए इस बजट में 16,000.
Okay, well, that is the finance minister in Parliament, and we'll keep going back to her for more. But SpiceJet is a stock that we want to kind of address, and I think we've got we got the stock sharply falling. If you can have the intraday up, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. 6.5% lower. Sonia is with us, I believe, to take us.
I think she's coming. But I think a couple of reasons why the stock could be selling. One is because of the large equity dilution. And I think the last few days, the problem was that there were so many names that were floating around. Now we have the official list that are coming there. And some of those names that you were hearing have not turned up into the official list. So I guess those are the two concerns. Massive dilution in the equity base. And maybe, the names that are coming maybe falling short of what the market was.
So some of the names which the press release reads include Elara India Opportunities Fund, Aries Opportunities Fund, Mahapatra Universal Limited, Nexus Global, Prabhudas Leeladhar, Resonance Opportunity, and some more. And it looks like the promoters too will be pumping in close to about 500 crore rupees in a phased manner, but of which, out of that 500 crore, they've said 200 crore has already been released, but received. But the promoters will be putting in 500 crores in a phased manner. Sonia is with us now for more details on this. Sonia.
Well, thanks a lot for that. There are two pieces of news flow, right? On one hand, the losses for the company continue. So I think that's also a reason why the stock is under pressure. A net loss in Q2 to the tune of almost 450 crores. The company has been dealing with a lot of financial troubles over the last many quarters and months. Remember, same time last year, the loss was much higher. But nevertheless, compared to its peers like Indigo that have been reporting profitability, SpiceJet in comparison is seeing very steep losses. The revenues as well for the company have gone down 27%. It has been losing market share too, coming in at 1,428 crores of revenues versus 1,954 crores same time last year. And the EBITDA losses for the company also continue despite an improvement that we're seeing in the overall industry. So that is the big disappointment. The other thing, as you guys have also been pointing out, the board has approved fundraising via issue of shares and warrants. They will be issuing about 32 crore shares at an issue price of 50 rupees a share. They will issue up to 13 crore convertible warrants at 50 rupees a warrant as well. So there's a total fundraising of 20 to 50 crores via the issue of shares and warrants that we're looking at. But is that enough to solve SpiceJet's balance sheet issues? Time will tell. For now, the stock is under pressure because of the disappointment that we've seen on the earnings front for SpiceJet. Back to you.
All right, Sonia, thanks very much for that. I think what we'll do is we'll take a quick commercial break here. We'll do that. 120 points lower on the Nifty is what we have, 20,880 on the index. We are back with more on the other side. There's, of course, Abhiram, who's with us. D Street Chatter will come up in just a bit from now because, I mean, a fair bit of action out there in the market on the downside as opposed to what we've seen over the last many days. Stay with us.
CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence. CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.
Welcome back. Well, the market's now trying to gradually pull back up. We're holding at around 20,900. So we have recovered close to 20 points in the last few minutes or so. We're still in conversation with Abhiram. Abhiram, thanks so much for waiting by. Well, the big news that's coming in is on SpiceJet. You know, the street is still trying to come to terms with regard to this dilution. But what's your view on the aviation space? Everyone's traveling, fares are going up, plenty of demand. You think, you know, that the play is already done? And would you look at SpiceJet now? For the last many months, we only had one play, that was Interglobe. Now is the time to look at this one with the fund infusion?
I'm sorry, Nigel, I think I missed part of the question, but it looks like you're asking about the aviation
companies. Yes. On the aviation companies, SpiceJet has got some money. Till now, we only had one option, which was Interglobe Aviation. Do you think now it's time to play SpiceJet since they've got that oxygen to breathe?
Okay. I'll go less on names here, but broadly we like the aviation space because in the past, like I would have mentioned to you a few times on affluent India, and aviation is very much a part of
Okay, we've lost the connection with Abhiram. We'll try and repatch it with him. But in the meanwhile, let me go across to Nimesh, who's going to tell us what dealing rooms are talking about this afternoon. Nimesh?
Ramayana, it looks like the Nifty is struggling to hold on around that 21,000 levels, and those levels is where you are seeing some bit of profit booking as well. But I understand in terms of flows, it's a heavy volume day, so the institutional participation is definitely on the higher side. While the Nifty bank is under pressure, but the flows are positive is what I understand. But though today, for a change, the volumes on the banking stocks are largely with some limits as well. So only at a certain limit on certain volumes, there is going to be buying interest. So that's the specific volume with regards to the financial names. I guess looks like now the profit bookings across the board. So pharma is under pressure today. Some of the chemical stocks are under pressure today. So a down day, but again, from a flow perspective, the feedback is that there is no big large selling coming from the large institutions. But of course, the volumes are on the higher side. So the participation seems to be both from FIs and DIs on across the board in most of the large cap names today.
And what about stocks?
Well, Rima, in terms of individual names, the first stock in my list today is Tata Chemicals. After a long time, some bit of interest seems to be back on this particular stock. Stock has been consolidating in a very narrow range for the last many months now, but it looks like some bit of HNI interest is back. So some large HNI investors have bought as well, is what I understand, in Tata Chemicals of late. So that's the first one. The second name is Bajaj Auto. That's been buzzing and on good volumes as well. The street is anticipating some sort of a corporate development very soon. So watch out for the further capital utilization by the company. So maybe a buyback or a dividend is something which the street is anticipating. So that's keeping the stock exciting. The third is a couple of cash stocks which generally we didn't talk about, but that's been buzzing and it caught my eye largely because of volume. So one is Godfrey Phillip. It's a low volume stock, but looks like there's some bit of FI interest today, so expect high delivery volumes. And the second name is Godrej Industries. This is interesting. For many months now, the stock has been consolidating in a very narrow range. Looks like the selling pressure from an institutional fund is largely getting over in Godrej Industries. The fourth one is JSPL. Big move in that stock. Surprisingly, in this month itself, the stock is rallied 10%, and now the street is anticipating some corporate development in JSPL as well. And the last one is HDFC Life. Within the insurance name, this is one stock which has been accumulated for the last many days from the larger FIs. Looks like that buying seems to be largely now reflecting the stock price as well. So big volumes again, even in today's trade, and looks like some institutional interest is back in HDFC Life as well.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, Nimesh. Well, let's try to get you a quick analysis on a couple of these names. PI Industries, Sonal will be joining us very, very soon to tell us why exactly the street is a little bit nervous in terms of the stock price move. So just keep an eye out on that one, currently down close to around 10%. Mitesh Thakur is back with us. Mitesh, what are the calls you have for us?
I have a BTST on, rather a short-term buy on Mishra Dhatu Nigam. I think that's a stock which after correction is breaking out. So keep a stop at about 395 and a target of around 430 can be looked at on the upside. The other one which I like is BTST, which I would recommend taking a BTST position on. Sorry, I lost the name. Just a minute. Yeah. BTST on Adani Ports with a stop at about 1,030 for targets of 1,060.
Okay. By the way, markets now coming off to about 85 odd point cut is what we have. Some of these stocks taking a large look at Paytm, by the way. It's down 6%. And I think in the last 30 odd trading sessions, it's lost about 40% of its value. The high recently was $1,000 and it's come down to about 600 now. So that's a very sort of massive cut. The low from where SpiceJet bounced was about 450. It's given up a lot of the gains recently, and the losses came through even before the RBI circular, which is expected to slow down the small ticket size loans in a very large way, even before what Paytm itself said it is going to do about it. Any thoughts here, Paytm, Mitesh?
We discussed the stock earlier, Prashant. I think it was going through a big decline, and we said that this will possibly continue. It's nearly met the targets of around 600, which is what we are looking at. 600, 575 is a good area for the decline to be arrested. Let's see if that happens, and then if we see some consolidation and then reversal, we'll look into it. Otherwise, for the time being, it remains an avoid. Or in case you get a rally in between, I think sell on rallies.
Okay. Jay Bala of Cash the Chaos is also with us on the show now. Jay, afternoon. After a relentless run, markets have started pausing, giving up a bit of ground, but not too much. The Nifty today also went down to levels of 20,967, and from there, it's rebounded about 50 points to climb back above 20,900. So it's really not giving up any ground whatsoever. What's the market construct looking like from here?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Rima. See, the markets are due for a pause, at least, if not a reversal. But the banking index is going to be the key. But when it comes to the Nifty, if the momentum were to carry the markets beyond 21,300, the medium-term reversal that I've been talking about, that may not happen. But the highs that the markets have registered so far is well exactly within the parameters that I've mentioned. But we need a breakdown. But so far, we don't have one. And we'll watch the Bank Nifty really closely. If the banking index were to break below 46,507, that will be the first step for the alert for a reversal. But the medium-term reversal for the banking index comes below 43,230. And for the Nifty, the near-term supports are about 20,500 to 20,200. So watch these key levels that I've outlined here.
Okay, all right. Well, that's on the indices then. But Jay, this is a stock-specific market, so you must be having a couple of stock picks for us. Give us the list as well as the levels you're looking at.
Yeah, Godrej Consumer, from the FMCG space, seems to be in a weakening trend. That's a conditional short for me. I'll wait for the stock to break below 1010. If the stock breaks below 1010, that's probably confirming a short-term reversal, and a price objective close to 900 is the potential, and a stop about 1065 would make sense, which is today's high. So that's the stock pick I have for on the short side, and I'm not too convinced. ICICI Lombard is potentially ambivalent long, so watch that space. And I don't have anything else which is convincing for me. So so more convincing is Godrej Consumer on the downside, but a reluctant long on ICICI Lombard.
Jay, hi, good afternoon. But the PSU move has been quite spectacular, right? And not just banks, but everything across. Defense stocks perhaps have been a little quiet because they had their day in the sun. Actually, not days, but months in the sun, in an uninterrupted way. But there's railways and so much else in the PSU space. Have you looked at the index itself, the PSE or the Nifty PSE index?
Yeah, more than that, it's been the PSU bank which has been doing pretty well rather than the Nifty PSE. Nifty PSU banks, I've been saying they might still have a little more higher highs to come through, but like you pointed out, the PSE index has got a relentless run past 73,700, and the structure is pretty similar to the PSU banking index. Both of them might have a sharp pullback, but it looks like they still have at least one more high come through after the pullback. So I would expect the Nifty PSE index to drop somewhere close to say 68,500 and 6850, and the Nifty PSU banking index drop somewhere close to about 5100, and then come back to the recent highs it's registered. So it's an unfinished move for both these indices, but a sharp pullback could be due for both these indices.
Jay, I wanted to ask you about two other asset classes. One is on Bitcoin, which is the new age investment, so to call it, and it's been a big outperformer this year out of nowhere, actually. What's your view out there? And gold, the traditional asset that you normally turn to, you don't believe it's going to shine from here?
Yeah, see, gold was promising, but unfortunately, it's had a key reversal week, and it's spiked to a new all-time high, and then gave up that break. That kind of move is actually an indication of an exhaustion, and a drop at least to 1810 is coming for gold, and somewhere close to 21 for silver. But if that doesn't happen, and gold just tries to take out the spike high it registered last week, that'll be extremely bearish for the medium to long term. So, I'm not anticipating that. I'm anticipating a drop to 1810 and then resume the bull run for the yellow metal. So that's the theme I'm working with. When it comes to Bitcoin, I had pointed out in my prepared notes that profit booking potential is likely around 46,000 mark, and the profit booking has started coming at about 45,000 itself. And yesterday's or day before yesterday's drop of 8% is saying that profit booking leg has already begun, and we're probably going to see a drop somewhere close to 33,000, or maybe if it's a deeper drop, probably to 30,000. So the key takeaway from Bitcoin's drop is probably indicating that the recent risk on that we saw may be coming to a halt, at least temporarily.
Sorry, missed the level on Bitcoin.
Yeah, 33,000 to 30,000. The key takeaway though is the risk on that I pointed to an end of year rally that might be at short-term risk.
Okay. By the way, Jay, did you sort of come in on look at PI Industries, and we were highlighting that earlier. The entire agrochemical, specialty chemical space, of course, is something which is bombed out. But the one name which has managed to escape that and has done well generally, although, I mean, if you look at it from a 2-year point of view, I mean, the stock's not done anything since mid-2021 or so, broadly. But it had a huge run on the upside. It's not corrected that much either, but now it's down 10%, 10.5%, and it's the fall is becoming larger as we speak. Any thoughts? I mean, if you're able to pull up the charts of PI Industries, 3472 on this one, Jay.
Yeah, see, it's probably clocking a medium to long-term top. And, if you look at the move from 2022 high, we call in technical parlance as a ending diagonal. But, the structure right now is pointing to a possibility of a drop for PI Industries somewhere close to 2,300. So that's quite a steep drop even from current levels. So, the new highs that clocked from the 2022 lows actually happened in, a toppish fashion like just mentioned just below. So the immediate support for the stock is at about 32.70. If that were to break, we are looking at 2,300 for the stock.
Jay, do stay on. We need to slip into a very short break. As we do that, we get you some important voices that we got from corporates we chatted with earlier. Dixon is the company and the stock on our radar. The company's wholly owned subsidiary Paget Electronics has been awarded a manufacturing contract by Lenovo. The contract has been awarded for manufacturing IT hardware products under PLI 2.0. We chatted with Saurabh Gupta, CFO of Dixon Technologies, to talk about this particular partnership, this order and business in the outlook. Listen in.
Look at the total Indian market in terms of volumes, the IT hardware is around 20 odd million units, and Lenovo pretty much has a 19% market share, both in laptop, notebooks, as well as tablets. I think so it's a large opportunity for us, and we think we'll be able to capture a large opportunity of this pie. So I think so for next financial year, we are looking to capture at least 10 to 15% of their volume requirements for the Indian market. My sense is year on year that numbers will continue to grow. I think so it can be of 1,800 to 2,000 crore opportunity for next year. And then potentially 25-26, it can be a 4,500 crore opportunity, and majorly led by Lenovo. Yeah, so what we have committed under the application, and recently we got an approval, we have committed an investment of 250 odd crores and cumulative revenues of almost 48,000 crores over a period of 6 years starting next financial year. So these are the numbers that we are looking at. They should be in line, so broadly 2.8 to 3% kind of margins. But hopefully, as the way the whole PLI scheme is structured, there is a commitment on backward integration. You get more incentive, the more backward integration you do. So my sense is over a period of next couple of years, if we are able to attain that operating leverage, get into some backward integration of say batteries, chargers, cabinets, display, I think so then there is a small potential for the margin expansion.
CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence. CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.
Okay, 90 points lower is what we have on the index at about 20,900 at this point in time. Lots of stuff moving around. Let's just go back to PI Industries. 10% lower right now. And the news, what seems to be hurting is that Chinese companies basically coming into a very important product segment for PI Industries. And of course, I mean, the fear is that the Chinese, when they enter a segment, it's largely going to be on the back of lower prices. And that's the worry here. And that's the reason why PI is under pressure. More details in terms of what the product is, how important it is for PI, etc., coming up in a bit from now. But that's a very large cut. We, of course, discussed this with Jay on the technicals just earlier before we took that break. Jay, any other names which look interesting to you, both on the long or the short side from here?
Yeah, some of the other stocks in the chemical space, Atul Limited, that might be another stock that's interesting for me. But it's conditional once again. I would like a break below 6,700 before concurring that the November low that we saw for Atul Limited is not the final low, but so far momentum is pointing to the probability that it's not clocked a final low. So if it were to break below 6,700, further negatives are likely to kick in. So that's another interesting stock for me.
Jay, thank you very much for joining in. The stock on our radar right now is Canfin Homes. Yesterday, remember, the stock was down close to about 5%. The fear in the market was that there was another case of money getting siphoned off at one of its branches. Today, the stock is recovering and it's up close to about 2.5%. We've got Abhishek with us here in the studio and he's got a chat with the management of the company. Abhishek?
Let us just welcome Mr. Suresh Iyer. So what is the misappropriation of funds that have actually taken place at Canfin Homes?
This was actually not a very recent case, but yeah, it's about a quarter back. We had an incident at Ambala branch where the staff in collusion has kind of withdrawn money without this thing because they had the local check signing powers and the local reconciliation, and it was a decentralized setup. So the branch has siphoned some money and into their personal accounts, and that is what was the issue over there. And since then, we have kind of reported to the stock exchanges. We have disclosed to our regulators also, and some corrective steps have also been taken.
Well, is there a larger control lapse or systematic issue at your end? How big a problem could this be across Canfin Homes?
See, this particular incident we did, in fact, we reported also to the stock exchanges and to the investors that we did carry out a thorough check of all our branches. So right from, all our 193 branches, right from the period from April 2021, we carried out this exercise to see if in a similar kind of an incident or some such big, this thing was there in any other practice was there in any other branch. And it was negative. So there was no other such incident in any other branch. This was a very isolated incident at one of the specific branches of Ambala. And we then filed a police complaint. In fact, we have filed a case with the CBI also, application to the CBI.
Well, how much will become NPA, and have you done any forensic on the same?
So it's not something which will affect our NPA. Because this was purely, there was no asset to back it up. It was purely funds which were there in the account were siphoned off to personal accounts. So there is no asset to back it up, and it's not an asset fraud. It is basically cash defalcation. So in that sense, there is no NPA which will be impacted because of this. The NPA which would have been impacted only in the event of an asset fraud.
Do you intend to stop the occurrence of frauds, and what measures are being taken to improve the overall system and stop leakages from happening?
Sure. See, this was mainly because there was a lot of decentralization, at the branches, and there was a control also lapse because there was mainly everything was left to the branches. There was a decentralized approach basically. So we had the branches who were also writing their own checks for disbursement. The branches were also doing the reconciliation, and there was a pool account from which it was going, which was being used by all the branches specifically. So what we have done is, one, we have centralized our disbursements. So now all the disbursements that are done across the country by any of our branches, they are scrutinized at the head office, and then they are, the documentation is also checked before it is approved, and then only the instructions are given to Canara Bank to issue the demand draft. So this has two benefits. One, there is a double checking which happens at the head office, and two, there is no check signing which happens at the branches. So it is purely a DD which has to be collected from the respective Canara Bank account which the branch is having. So these are the two added benefits. Going forward, what we have additionally done is, some of the payments we are centralizing. So slowly all the debit side entries that are there at the branches, mainly payments, as well as this deposit repayment and this disbursements. One by one, we are centralizing. Disbursements has already been centralized. Some of the expenses are also getting centralized, and very soon all expenses and our deposit repayment will also be centralized. Thereby, the branches will not be required to have any checkbook or any check signing facility.
Then forget it. Stay on it. Abhi tak graphic nahi bane, there's no point. Na? What am I going to do after coming out? All right. Well, there is Canfin Homes stock recovering sharply, as we play out that interview. Abhishek, thanks very much for taking us through that conversation with Canfin Homes. We had seen a massive correction over the last 2 or 3 days. Day before yesterday, I think, was the very sharp sell-off that we had seen. And the management actually coming in with some clarifications at this point in time. 96 points lower is what we have on the Nifty, 20,900 on the index, and it's looking pretty weak. I mean, actually, it's not a very, in percentage terms, to be fair, it's a 0.5% cut, right? But what you have is the first pullback, even a 0.5% cut. I don't think we've had one since early November. 11th to 12th of November is the last 100-point kind of cut that we had. Since then, it's largely been an up and up kind of a market, with the pace picking up all of last week. Just the other large indices before we kind of wrap up the day with individual stocks. The Nifty Bank will end with a 0.5% cut. We have the mid and the small cap indices, which also end with corrections. Mid cap index down about 1/3%, and I think the small cap index ending absolutely flat. We got 14,527 on the small cap index. That had a 0.25% gain when we started to 230, and that ends almost unchanged by the close of it. Rima.
Well, the Nifty Bank ends with a cut of about 2.5%. It's been weighed down by Kotak Mahindra Bank. And pull up in HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank. HDFC Bank down nearly 1%, while ICICI Bank too lower by 0.3%. The big drags on the market have come in on, via BPCL, that's down nearly 4%. Maruti, Eicher Motors weak, Titan Reliance Industries losing about 1.5%. The gainers list includes insurance companies, HDFC Life, a favorable tax order boosting the stock. It's up 5%. The top Nifty gainer, SBI Life, 1.5%. Ultratech Cement, strong. A couple of metal names like JSW Steel, Hindalco closing up in the green. Bajaj Auto, fresh high on the stock as it crosses 6,250.
All right. Well, a few more names actually that moved very, very well, particularly in the last hour of trade. Canfin Homes, Abhishek got that clarification coming from the management. And that one, actually, the intraday chart will tell you a better picture. JSPL, the street is expecting some kind of corporate development, as Nimesh said. So that one as well, big up move in today's trading session. So that one, in fact, goes home with solid gains. And we had Trent, actually, that was quiet for majority of the trading session. But towards the end as well, it did come back up and move higher in today's trade. So quite an action-packed day, and after a while, I think we've had a 100-point downtick.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Early November, you have to go back to even get a 0.5%. It's actually not even a 0.5% cut. Yeah. It's about 0.45%. But well, that's what the market has done. It's lulled us into a kind of saying that the market goes up. The pace will differ, and it's been largely, for the most part, true that even though momentum has kind of slowed down. For the last 3 or 4 days, we've made that point, but it's been a slow, gentle, upward kind of trajectory. Today, not so much, with the index ending about 100 points in the red. So 2,900 is where we end. I think we came pretty close to the 2850 level. The low today is, by the way, 2867. So we almost got to it, but not quite, there. And then from that level, there was about a 30-odd point pullback. We'll slip into a quick commercial break here from all of us. Thank you very much for staying with us here on this edition of Closing Bell. But markets forward will pick up on all the action in just a bit from now.